Alright, let's discuss these articles, the infirmities in the SIR of electoral rolls. See, in the context of the special intensive revision of the electoral rolls of Bihar, we have already discussed the prerequisite procedures. So, let this article be a quick recap of what we have already discussed. Okay, so some quick questions. I want participation from your end. What is Article 326? Universal. 324. Election Commission is supposed to overlook elections. So, who decides citizenship in this country? Parliament decides citizenship, or Parliament makes laws. Okay, under what law would you know about your citizenship status? And which ministry is supposed to take care of it? Okay. Is this clear? So, a quick recap. So, we have in India, after independence, according to Article 326 of our Constitution, universal adult franchise for all its citizens. Okay? So, which means every adult who turns 18 is supposed to get a right to vote. Okay? After that, Article 324 says that there shall be an election commission to overlook the process. Alright. And then you have a parliamentary law which decides how this electoral rolls are prepared. What is the act therein? Representation of People Act. According to the section 21 of this act, Election Commission is given the responsibility to update the rolls either on a small geographical basis, small area, or entire region. Okay. Now, in the context of Bihar, the problem was, what was the problem? What was the central problem? Okay, just before elections is one thing. It did not get enough time for notification, and you are demanding documentation which is probably difficult to procure in such a short span of time. And this led to a concept called disenfranchisement, wherein the citizens get excluded from the social contract between the state and themselves. So they become stateless. Effect. You are essentially saying that you do not belong to the state. So the central contract, the conflict right now is that, are we saying that election commission has the power to decide whether a citizen is actually a citizen? Because when you do this, what are you saying? I am removing you from the electoral roll, and by implication I am saying that you are not a citizen. What is Article 326 saying? Universal adult franchise for its citizens. So this is like a circular loop. Who should take responsibility here? That is why Supreme Court comes into the picture. Right. So this is a conflict. So it would be interesting to see how we are going to proceed forward. And in this article, I am quoting this particular case. This is the takeaway from this article. There is this Lal Babu Hussain and others versus Electoral Registration Officer and others. It's a case from 1995. It says that in the second situation, since the name is already entered, it must be presumed that before entering his name, the concerned officer must have gone through the procedural requirements under the statute. So what is the context here? Supreme Court is essentially saying, I expect you to make sure that all the procedural requirements needed for entering a person's name in an electoral roll are followed. So by default, if his name is already on the roll, you do not have the right to exclude it. on procedural grounds. Okay, if the citizen is no more existing, like the citizen passed away or they gave up their citizenship, you can remove it. But just because you don't have a proof, you can't remove them because it is beyond your jurisdiction. Election Commission's mandate has got nothing to do with decision of whether a citizen, whether a person is a citizen or not. And this is the gist of this article. Okay? Clear? So the takeaway in this is this argument. Please note this argument, and as this situation evolves, you will probably get a question on this. I am expecting a mains question on this because it is a mix between RPA as well as judiciary as well as citizenship. Three different domains are getting mingled here, and it's a perfect example where UPSC's multidisciplinary questions can be asked. Clear? Okay. The same old thing, we will discuss this in separate economy article. It's a repetition of the same old stuff. Okay, but act of evil, this one, social harmony. Even these articles are more or less repetitive, but a quick recap, because this will take a separate 1 hour lecture when I have to deal with the labor policy total. Now, when we are talking about social harmony and how to address this issue of internal security, when you are talking about this internal security, it is not just absence of violence against the state. It is also about the state of mind of the citizens residing in that country. So, it is characterized by not just defense, it is also about development. Okay? So, both these aspects should go hand in hand in a counter-terrorism strategy. So, a counter-terrorism strategy is a mix and match of both hard power and soft power. Soft power comes from respecting the needs of that population. So this is what this article is saying. Okay. Fishing troubles, the same old article with respect to the fishermen trouble between India and Sri Lanka. What happened recently? There are 14 fishermen who were arrested by the Sri Lankan Navy because they entered into international waters. Okay, quick question. What is the law that decides Indian territory and international waters? UN clause. Anyone who doesn't know what UN clause is, please go back and read about this. So, what is the differentiation between exclusive economic zone, territorial waters and international waters? You need to go and check this. Also, on a related note, you also had this treaty on high seas treaty. What is that called? Treaty on biodiversity beyond. Okay. See, these two laws, you can prepare it like this also. Sometimes international relations can be clubbed with environment and IR. Sorry, mapping. IR, mapping, environment. Three of them can be combined. So, what is the issue here? The issue is pretty simple. Because of the precarious nature of the economy in that region, a lot of fishermen even now depend on this unsustainable practice called bottom trawling. What is bottom trawling? Fishermen use big nets and they dump it in the sea, and that nets will go to the ocean floor and they will pick up everything that comes along with it, and this will destroy coral reefs. It will destroy the breeding grounds of fish. It's called spawning. and all the biodiversity of that region will also be destroyed. Eventually, when the catch is brought to the surface, only a part of it will be picked, the rest is again dumped, which will again pollute the water. Okay, so this is an extremely unscientific and unsustainable mechanism, and yet these fishermen are under immense pressure to sustain themselves financially because they don't know anything else. They time and again venture out into the international waters, even when they know it is risky, with a hope that they can just chalk out a bit more profit than normal in a short span of time. So, this issue between India and Sri Lanka has been going on forever. I mean, you must have also seen some movies on these lines, right? So, this issue is not new. So, what is the solution now? There is one area called Park Strait. In that region, there is a proposal to set up a research institute which will revamp the livelihoods of these fishermen. That is one proposal. Another proposal is that a joint working committee between India and Sri Lanka is supposed to come to an amicable solution on addressing the issue of this bottom trawling. As many as 128 fishermen are still languishing in the Sri Lankan prisons. How do we address their pain and bring them back to our country? On Sri Lanka's side, there is a resentment from India that the party in power, which is supposed to negotiate this, is not taking this up as a priority. So it requires both technical solution as well as a political solution. Don't you think this is the same trend that I'm talking about here? It requires a technical solution, that is hard power, military technology, also soft power, that is political participation and governance. Answer is same. You will not get a solution only through technology, only through governance, only through law. It's a mix and match of everything. The same trend you will observe in just about every topic. Clear? Alright, moving forward. India records the highest greenhouse gas emissions for 2024. This is an extremely important data pointer for your prelims exam. Take a look at this chart. Where will you get maximum greenhouse gases from? Which sector? Fossil fuels, electricity generation. So, it is no surprise because what is the major source of current or power in our country? Thermal power. Okay, and that is why we want to make a transition towards renewable energy, and by 50% by 2030 should be from renewable energy, which is our target. But the other day we were also seeing a paradox. What is that? Generation efficiency, the grid emission factors actually increased because they were not reliable. So the alternative way to move towards this goal of energy transition is investing in battery technology. Why? If solar is producing power and we can charge a battery with it, you can use it even when the sun is absent in the evenings. That's how you move towards a sustainable power solution. Alright. Now in this situation, you need to see the paradox. In per capita terms, India's emission remained less than half of the global average. We've got such a huge population that even the highest greenhouse gas emissions, when you take it on a per capita basis, you divide that emissions per single person, it's still less than half of the global average. This is what you should know. So UPSC can confuse you with both this intermingling of both these facts. We can say highest per capita emissions. And if you just look at this headlines and mark it as right, you're going to lose. Highest greenhouse gas emissions, but not per capita. Do you see the paradox? Imagine what would happen if we are indeed emitting on a per capita basis just like how US did it. India will literally look like a gas chamber. Okay. Actually, there are a lot of students from Delhi, even yesterday, they were calling up because of the pollution levels, they're hospitalized. How many of you know the air quality of Hyderabad? Like, let's say, for example, Ashok Nagar. What do you think will be the air quality? 70 to 80. You know what is the air quality in Delhi? On the peak day? That is the upper limit of that meter. Apparently, it was somewhere around 2700. 2700. Imagine. What we take for granted sometimes is a luxury in some other location. Okay? Anyway, moving forward. What do forensic experts do after blasts? What do you think they'll be doing? Collecting? Okay. Let's visualize yourself as a officer walking in slow motion after a bomb blast and you are expecting that everybody is looking at you with a hope that you're going to solve this case. What would you do when you arrive at the scene? The first thing that you would do. Securing the perimeter. Why? See, I can teach you the content, but let us visualize ourselves in that scene so that you don't have to buy hard a lot of things. What would you do? Secure the perimeter. Or would you, just like in the movies, the show, you take out a cigarette and light it and pollute it further? No, right? Why? You would contaminate the scene. This crime scene should not be contaminated first. So therefore, you are stopping everyone from entering into that zone. Now, when you are suspecting that there are metal pieces in the explosive material, do you think it is wise to use any ferrous material, any magnetic material to gather the samples? There's a possibility that the scene can be contaminated, right? So you need to use plastic, brass, or any non-ferrous metal. After that is done, you would be using some techniques. Usually, you will use some spectrography techniques. What is spectrography? Electromagnetic radiation. And that electromagnetic radiation will tell us the energy at which, let's say you use this and sample them through a spectrography sample, like you will get the energy at which that material detonated, which will probably give us an insight on the kind of material it is. Okay. You will also see from the site of origin where the crater is formed because of the detonation, you will be able to estimate the impact, the projectile motion that the explosive materials carried out. And for that also you will have a technique. So if UPSC decides to torture you, they can use this terms: Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy and attenuated total reflectance test are used in the context of which of the following? Food sampling, or remote sensing, or let's say forensics, or D, medical technology. The game starts now. 1 only, 2 only, 3 only, all the above. Because this is science and tech, mark all the above. Right? That's the technology, that's the way you are using this. Just one question. Why would you put a food sample under spectrography? Is it a bomb? Is there, like, I'm just asking, curious. Can we put it? or not put it? We can. Why? But why use a spectrograph for that? See, these are the kind of questions you need to ask. You have enough tools to seek information, but what question will you ask? The class is meant to just raise your curiosity. You go back and tell me the answer. What is a spectrograph? What is its relation to electromagnetic spectrum? Is there any at all? Or are we writing a science fiction script now in the class? If yes, how is it used? If no, why can't it be used? What is the practical limitation? So this is one way you can understand the applications of the electromagnetic spectrum. 10 years ago, we have had questions like LiDAR, sonar, all this, communication technologies. UPSC is also evolving. So you can expect a question like this. Okay. What is Raman spectroscopy? Electron microscopy. Please go back and search the meanings of this. I'm not asking you to master the technology. Just in a simple way, see if you can use the available tools at your disposal to just be curious. What other uses will these technologies have? Okay, that's what I wanted from you. Now, see, if you want to really act upon and solve this case, it's not just important to have technology, because ultimately it all boils down to governance, law, and creating that sense of security again within the citizens of this country. It's a very heinous crime what they did. It's an attack on our sovereignty, and without addressing this nation, without reassuring that every action is taken, you're always going to watch your back and feel unsafe, and the state is going to do everything in its control to stop this from happening, right? In fact, if the situation was any bad, if intelligence gathering was actually indeed falling apart, maybe we would have had many more instances like this. So yes, this was a sort of a lapse, and yes, this is the challenge that any government is going to go through. No matter how powerful the nations are, the challenges will always evolve. On that note, we have to understand the governance as well as the legal architecture that can complement the results produced by the forensic teams. When it comes to the laws, you have the UAPA, which will enforce NIA to take over from the state police because it is involving a non-state actor possibly. It is not a jurisdiction of the state actor or within that state. So state police will have their own limitations in terms of investigation. Therefore, NIA is taking over. Similarly, other stakeholders like, let's say, NSG, which is trained in, understanding this results of forensics in highly sophisticated cases, they will also start involving themselves. And then when it comes to the investigative agencies, the research agencies like NTRO, okay, so they start involving themselves because there is a possibility of, let's say, if there is any evidence that can be caught in a CCTV camera, if the non-state actors are trying to hijack the CCTV network, we would need cyber security experts too. So it's like a coordination between every possible stakeholder to solve the case. And without this attitude of being a team player, we are not going to solve the case. So every single stakeholder is important here. And this coordination logic will sometimes be tested in internal security, where the lines are now getting blurred. You are not going to see security as a standalone, silo-based security question alone. There is a possibility of a mixture with science, with governance, with coordination, leadership, ethics also sometimes. And I might not be surprised, somewhere down the line, we will start having case studies in GS2 and GS3. Because this is how you will be testing the application part, right? And I'm pretty sure that we are going to evolve in that direction. And to be able to be real-time problem solvers on the spot, where you are forced to think like this, that the relevant technology should be recalled, the relevant law should be recalled, the relevant actionable stakeholders should be recalled on the spot in the time pressure. And that's how I see the future of UPSC exam evolving. It's not just about information. The next stage will be this interdisciplinary questions. They will get tougher and tougher, and one day the stage changes. You will see introduction of this case studies. Someday, I'm pretty sure. We don't know when. It's going to evolve. Okay. So please be ready for this interdisciplinary questions at least now, where you don't read the subject in silos and just make short notes and move on. It's not going to work. Try to interconnect the topics, okay, and see every issue as a problem which has a social, political, technological dimensions, and the solution should also have those dimensions. All right, moving on. Why do astronauts wear pressurized suits? What is the short answer? To stop themselves from getting killed. What will kill them if they don't wear? This is the question. Pressure. What is the relevance between pressure and human body? See, we are all told that if you apply more pressure, it's difficult to survive. The opposite is also equally true. Take UPSC exam pressure too much to your mind, same result. Remove the pressure, same result. Balance, homeostasis, equilibrium. This is the beauty of the systems thinking. Na kam, na zyada. Balance. What is this balance that we're talking about? A state where the pressure on a human body created by Earth and also the external forces balance each other out so that our human body can survive. We are adapted to this kind of an environment. Once you go into the vacuum, gravity is gone, pressure is gone, and your human body will have some kind of vessels within them. They don't feel any pressure anymore. So they're confused, like, how do I act now? And that increases the temperature just to restore that pressure balance. And it is unsustainable beyond 37-38 degrees, because once it increases, it creates a fever. When body temperature increases beyond a threshold, you'll start getting fits and eventually it'll pass away. Therefore, to fix this problem, spacesuits are designed. And there are two kinds of spacesuits. In fact, three. Broadly speaking, you will see this kind of a spacesuit where inside the spacecraft, you are given that pressure balance. Then, at the second stage, you will see if you want to walk out of the space station and maneuver in the outer space, there is a different kind of a spacesuit. In other scenario environments, you will need a different kind of a spacesuit. Who is the first person that went into space? Who is the first person who walked on the moon? Are you sure it's not the cameraman who took the photo of Neil Armstrong? Okay, that's a conspiracy theory that can wait for a later point. But I think the article says it's Yuri Gagarin. So we have to go with what the Hindu says. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin, the first human to go to space, wore a specialized IVA suit called SK-1. Are you going to note down the name of the spacesuit? Please don't do that. Just focus on the principle. Okay? So what is this extravehicular activity suit? If you want to walk out, please wear that. If you don't want to walk out, please wear this. That's it. You don't have to know anything else. This part, okay, let's not discuss this. It's too technical as of now. Okay, that's it for the day, guys. Okay. That labor article is there, right? We will be discussing that in the context of both governance and economy at a later point. There are other articles too which I have not discussed. If you remember, please ask me what those articles are. Nobel Prizes for Science and Tech. I remember. We will discuss them. Okay.